Hello guys, welcome back to Terrifying Tuesday. As I am going to try and make Terrifying Tuesday vids more often now. Okay, so you guys will enjoy them, love them, everything. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, turn the bell on, all of that stuff. So yeah. So guys, the first video I'm going to be reacting to is called, wait for that thing to go all the way, Home Invasion Horror Story Animated. So it's by Llama Art. Subscribe to him. He's a good YouTuber, guys. Subscribe. Link in the description. Alright, so let's get into this video.
It was a cold, foggy evening when I contacted a close friend of mine to stay at my place for the night. Both of us were only 10 years old at the time, and my parents were often at work until midnight, so I was usually alone with nothing to do except watching a television show or reading a book. My friend Alex had agreed to come over and brought a game of Monopoly to pass some of the time. I also asked if he was interested in going to explore an abandoned subway station 3 miles away. He seemed excited at first, so we planned to go on the trip in the morning. I remembered that the subway dated back to the mid-1920s and became abandoned in 1932 after the market crash in 1929. I was very fascinated about its history, but never got the chance to go inside after my parents had warned me not to enter. As I quietly slept in my bed, I heard what sounded like a gunshot coming from the forest behind the house. Both of us woke up, frightened after what we had heard, and I told my friend not to worry, as hunters tend to go into the forest on frequent occasions, but when I checked the time, it was 11:39 p.m. This seemed very unusual, as hunters only came into the forest between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. I looked at Alex and decided to get out of my bed, intending to... Both of us were terrified as we desperately tried to keep as calm as we could. We heard footsteps getting louder and louder until they stopped in front of the bathroom door. And then this is when the most terrifying sound forced my heart to almost burst. Both of us screamed as the person chopped the door to pieces. It was pitch black inside the room, making it hard to find the vent, and by the time I spotted the vent, the person behind the door had made a hole big enough for us to see him. The man adorned black leather and was wearing a plague doctor mask.
Well, don't just sit there quickly try and...
But it was too high above the floor for us to reach it.
Well, so maybe try and jump in a wardrobe or something. First jump on the bath, jump on there,
to open the vent and crawl inside. When I looked at the door again, the man had managed to fit his arm through the hole and reached for the lock. I quickly grabbed Alex's hand
you're gonna die,
and
mate.
to pull him up into the vent.
Look,
Alex! I shouted and began going after him. I pursued the figure until I was led to the abandoned subway deep within the forest. It was chilly and foggy, meaning that I could only see objects within a range of 5 or 6 yards. Inside the subway was a pool of freezing cold water. It was so dark that I couldn't see anything. I had to rely on listening to the screams from Alex and track the source. As I slowly walked through the subway, I was now struggling to breathe under the intense stress and fear of the situation.
Very dirty.
I called, but there was no response. I continued walking through the water until the exit was no longer visible. I was now experiencing a massive panic attack. I had lost track of Alex, and I had no idea where I was or how to get out. Where are you, Alex?
That was mad. Don't know what to say. It was mad. So the next 3 animations are by Onesie Entertainment. Subscribe to him, guys, as well. And this one I'm going to be reacting to is called, hold on, True Insane Neighbor Horror Story Animated. Hope you guys enjoy.
A few years back, I rented an apartment from a friend of mine. He had recently bought it and had it completely renovated.
Wait. This guy's voice, he sounds like PewDiePie. I'm not even gonna lie. I completely got it renovated. Something like that.
He put it up for sale but couldn't find a buyer, so I offered to rent it in the meantime.
No, the
After
voice.
moving in, I realized there was something wrong with the lady next door. She was about 45, but looked much older. She would sit up all night listening to Christian radio shows and talking loudly to someone. It got to the point where I couldn't sleep, so I went over to her place and asked her to keep it down. She opened her door and I got a quick peek.
It was real creepy, guys.
Her walks all had crosses painted on them in different colors, and words like Jesus and angels scribbled everywhere. The windows were painted black, letting in no light at all. It was damp, yellow-stained 50-year-old carpets, dog shit and cockroaches everywhere. No dog, though. I asked her to please keep it down. She just looked at me and shut the door. Then she turned up the radio even louder. The next day, I had my girlfriend staying over. I wake up in the middle of the night and see a shadow of a person next to the bed looking at us sleeping. I think I'm hallucinating, as I usually do in the dark when I'm sleepy.
Alright, seriously. What the heck is going on? With dog crap all over room, some yellow saying some shadow above the guy. I don't understand this, guys. We need more of the background, though. For my YouTube video, man. YouTube videos.
But then the shadow starts talking.
I'm gonna decorate it.
It's my neighbor, and she's holding something in her hand.
What's going on?
She broke in during the night, and who knows how long she stood there.
Why?
You should lock your door at night.
She says and walks out.
Wait. Why is that why did I have to add that voice?
The next morning, I hear someone making strange noises below my bedroom window.
This guy look like one of them Roblox dudes.
It's my neighbor, talking to herself in tongue. She has a plastic bag in her hand.
Alright,
With her
what is
rotting
going
dead
on?
dog inside.
What is going
It's
on?
hot as hell outside, and I can smell
What the
death from the bag.
Oh my gosh.
At this point, I'm scared shitless. She's obviously very insane. I go upstairs and knock on another person's door and ask what the hell is going on. The guy is as scared as me. Apparently, she broke into his apartment one evening as well, while he was watching TV with his kids.
I don't understand
He
what's
got up
going
from
on,
the
man.
couch to get a snack, only to find her behind the couch staring at him, holding a power drill. At this stage, I'm basically shitting myself.
We stop saying
I
that
call the
word.
cops, and they know all about her. Apparently, she's a violent schizophrenic, and she hasn't taken her meds. But they can't force her
So
or enter her apartment without permission, because she owns it. The only thing they can do is get her when she goes outside. I sit up for the next 2 days, waiting for her to run out of cigarettes. When I hear her leave at 2 a.m. to go across the road to the 7-Eleven, I call the cops. They have 3 cars and a special van over in less than 2 minutes. They restrain her and throw her in the van and drive off to some institution.
What's going on?
Less than a minute.
What's
It's like she
going
was never
on?
there. I never see her again, but I still have nightmares about her looking at me in my sleep.
I don't understand this, guys.
When I was 8 years old, I used to live in my
Okay.
grandma's house in Ecuador. Many of the neighbors would talk to my parents about seeing weird stuff in the house, like shadows moving around the windows when we weren't home. The first thing that would come to our heads was that someone must have broken into the house, but nothing would ever be missing. Of course, they didn't
Yeah,
think
guys,
that there was
this
someone
one's
breaking
true
in.
childhood
They were
horror
sure
story
that our
animated.
house was haunted. Everyone even refused to come inside for parties or any other special occasion. They told us to get a priest and to get rid of
Why'd
any
she
bad
look like the
spirits.
granny from the horror
We
game
didn't
Granny?
take their
Can't
warnings
lie,
as
guys.
something important because my parents don't believe in those kinds of things. Although I would hear someone going up the stairs at night, our stairs were really old, so they would make a loud sound when someone would step on them. However, when I checked, there was nothing. I would just run to my bed and cover my head with the sheets until I fell asleep. One night, someone started knocking on the door really hard and screaming. We got really scared as it was 12:30 a.m. and everyone was asleep by then in our neighborhood.
What's going on
It
in
was
these two
extremely rare that
animations? Oh
someone
my
would be up
gosh.
at that time. My dad took his shotgun and told my mom and me to stay in my room and not move. I was scared for my dad's safety, but I felt relieved when my dad said my neighbor's name. He informed us that a water pipe had broke in our backyard and the water was spraying his house and broke one of his windows. He was nice about the situation and even said he'd help us fix the pipe. My dad got the shovels, as the pipes were underground, and we had to dig to see what was wrong and how we could fix it. As we started digging, they realized that they needed other materials, and they went to get it, leaving me alone in the backyard. There was barely any light back there. The only source of light we had was the moon, and one light post a block away from my house. I was pissed off. I mean, how could they leave an 8-year-old boy there by himself in the dark? But I didn't say anything about it. About 10 minutes had gone by since they left, and I was wondering what was taking them so long. They were only getting some materials after all. But as I was going to go back inside, I saw something moving really fast at the corner of my eye. I froze.
What
I wanted to run, but I couldn't. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. All I could do was move my eyes. I started to freak out, looking around to see what the hell was running around me.
Ugh.
I didn't see
Look like the
anything.
monster. I mean,
It was as if there
well, it is
was
a
nothing
monster
there
as
at
well.
all.
Look like
But
the monster
then I
from
looked to
Death
my
Note.
right, and I saw something that haunts me to this very day. It was a demon, in my opinion. It was so tall, around 7
Death
or 8
Note,
feet
man.
tall. It had long, skinny legs with a really buff
That-
body.
that looks
It
like
also
Death
had
Note.
very long spiral horns, and his eyes shined in the dark. I still couldn't move. The thing ran by me, looked at me, but it didn't do anything to me. It just looked at me. It could have been a goat or a sheep.
Jeez, that breath-
I've never
that breath
seen one
must
so big
stink.
or one that walks on 2 legs like a human. It ran, and I hid behind a big tree by my neighbor's house. Finally, I could move. I yelled at the top of my lungs while crying hysterically. My dad came running with his shotgun in hand and asked me what was wrong.
He ain't gonna
I
believe you.
explained what I saw to him,
He's
but
not gonna believe
he
you.
didn't believe me.
Exactly.
Nor did my mom. But someone did. My neighbor told me that he thought nothing happened to me because I'm a kid. As time passed, I slowly got over it. I moved from that house and moved to New York. My grandparents sold the house, and I left that experience in the past. However, that's not where this story ends. In my sophomore year in high school, I had a nightmare. The thing that I saw that night was in it this time. I could only see its
People
head
always
as it was
having
hiding
nightmares in
behind
these
the big tree.
animations. Nightmare,
He said
nightmare,
3
nightmare.
words that'll haunt me until my time
Honestly.
comes. It said, "You can't hide." I woke up from my nightmare and headed to school. While in school, at around 12:30 p.m., there was an announcement. A classmate of mine had been killed in front of my school by a car
Trying to
without
hide from
brakes.
his face.
I turned pale as I thought my nightmare may have something to do with the incident. I was scared and even went home early. I told my parents about it, but this time they took me to a priest and he said he'd give me something in 3 days. Every single day I had the same nightmare until my priest gave me a blessed cross.
That's what you should do.
And I haven't had any nightmares about
Tell
the
a
thing
priest.
anymore. However,
Good idea.
every night I sleep with the covers over my head. Call me a coward or anything you want, but the thing still hasn't left my mind. Those 3 words haunt me till this day. making me wonder when I will forget or move on from the thing.
Ooh. Okay, last one, guys. Choose
I'm 21 years
scariest doppelganger story
old
animated.
now. This happened to my uncle when I was around 9 years old. My uncle was living in our house and was staying at our vacant guest room up on the second floor. He's my dad's cousin, so he was really close to our family. My uncle was a morning person. He would always get up at around 4 a.m., drink coffee, and run morning errands around the house. He also told us that he could see and feel ghosts because he has a third eye.
Oh my
To
gosh,
give you a
what are
little
these
background on our
animations?
house,
What are
it was
these
the very first house
animations?
that was built on our street. We could sometimes feel something moving around our house, especially at night, but we never really paid attention to it. One morning, my uncle woke up at his usual time, around 4 a.m. He left his room, which was right beside the staircase, saw my older sister, who was 17 years old at that time, going up the stairs with a cup of coffee in her hand. The weird thing was, he said that my sister was looking down and not showing her face the whole time. He greeted her with, "Good morning, and why are you up so early?" He said my sister just kept walking up while looking down and ignoring him. My uncle felt awkward as my sister just walked past him. He ignored it, thinking my sister was in a really bad mood. He thought she probably stayed up late studying or something. My uncle went down to grab a cup of coffee when he saw my mother in the living room, ironing some clothes. My uncle was confused about why my mother was up at 4 a.m. and ironing clothes. He tried to talk to her and asked the same thing he asked my sister. "Why are you up so early?" He noticed that my mother was wearing the same clothes from the night before she went to bed, so he knew it was her. To his surprise, my mother ignored him. My mother never ignored anyone, which is why he found it strange.
Guys, I don't
My mother
understand
was
this.
just looking down as she kept ironing. That's when my uncle knew something was off. He knew something was very wrong here. He rushed back upstairs to his room, locked the door, turned off the lights, and tried to go back to sleep. He tried to forget about it and woke up again a few hours later. It was around 10 a.m. in the morning when he talked to my mother and my sister about what happened.
Where's Marvin?
They said they were asleep the whole night, and they don't recall waking up at 4 a.m. My uncle was so shocked about what he had just experienced. Someone was copying my mother and sister earlier that morning. I was so scared at that time. I became so paranoid that I might feel or see something odd in our house, but I tried not to think about it too much. The night after that situation, my uncle woke up at around 3 a.m. He felt something at the end of his bed, and he saw a woman with long hair sitting there.
Alright, I'll stop.
My uncle froze for a while. He didn't know what to do. He was trembling when he said, "Go away!" My uncle hid under his blankets. After a few minutes, which felt like hours, he looked at the same spot where he saw the woman, and she was gone. My uncle slept with the lights on that night. After that experience, he thankfully didn't experience anything like it ever again.
I don't understand this, guys.
When I was 8 years old, I used to live in my grandma's house in Ecuador. Many of the neighbors would talk to my parents about seeing weird stuff in the house, like shadows moving around the windows when we weren't home. The first thing that would come to our heads was that someone must have broken into the house, but nothing would ever be missing. Of course, they didn't think that there was someone breaking in.
Childhood
They were sure that our house was haunted. Everyone even refused to come inside for parties or any other special occasion. They told us to get a priest and to get rid of any bad spirits.
Why'd she look like the granny from the horror game?
We didn't
Granny.
take their warnings as something important because my parents don't believe in those kinds of things. Although I would hear someone going up the stairs at night, our stairs were really old, so they would make a loud sound when someone would step on them. However, when I checked, there was nothing. I would just run to my bed and cover my head with the sheets until I fell asleep. One night, someone started knocking on the door really hard and screaming. We got really scared as it was 12:30 a.m. and everyone was asleep by then in our neighborhood.
What's going on
It
in
was
these two
extremely rare that
animations? Oh
someone
my
would be up
gosh.
at that time. My dad took his shotgun and told my mom and me to stay in my room and not move. I was scared for my dad's safety, but I felt relieved when my dad said my neighbor's name. He informed us that a water pipe had broke in our backyard and the water was spraying his house and broke one of his windows. He was nice about the situation and even said he'd help us fix the pipe. My dad got the shovels, as the pipes were underground, and we had to dig to see what was wrong and how we could fix it. As we started digging, they realized that they needed other materials, and they went to get it, leaving me alone in the backyard. There was barely any light back there. The only source of light we had was the moon, and one light post a block away from my house. I was pissed off. I mean, how could they leave an 8-year-old boy there by himself in the dark? But I didn't say anything about it. About 10 minutes had gone by since they left, and I was wondering what was taking them so long. They were only getting some materials after all. But as I was going to go back inside, I saw something moving really fast at the corner of my eye. I froze. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. All I could do was move my eyes. I started to freak out, looking around to see what the hell was running around me. I didn't see anything. It was as if there was nothing there at all. But then I looked to my right, and I saw something that haunts me to this very day. It was a demon, in my opinion. It was so tall, around 7 or 8 feet tall. It had long, skinny legs with a really buff body. It also had very long spiral horns, and his eyes shined in the dark. I still couldn't move. The thing ran by me, looked at me, but it didn't do anything to me. It just looked at me. It could have been a goat or a sheep.
Jeez,
I've never seen one so big or one that walks on 2 legs like a human. It ran, and I hid behind a big tree by my neighbor's house. Finally, I could move. I yelled at the top of my lungs while crying hysterically. My dad came running with his shotgun in hand and asked me what was wrong.
He ain't gonna believe
I
you.
explained what I saw to him,
He's
but
not gonna believe
he
you.
didn't believe me.
Exactly.
Nor did my mom. But someone did. My neighbor told me that he thought nothing happened to me because I'm a kid. As time passed, I slowly got over it. I moved from that house and moved to New York. My grandparents sold the house, and I left that experience in the past. However, that's not where this story ends. In my sophomore year in high school, I had a nightmare. The thing that I saw that night was in it this time. I could only see its head
always
as it was
having
hiding
nightmares in
behind
these
the big tree.
animations. Nightmare.
He said 3 words that will haunt me until my time
Honestly.
comes. It said, "You can't hide." I woke up from my nightmare and headed to school. While in school, at around 12:30 p.m., there was an announcement. A classmate of mine had been killed in front of my school by a car
Trying to
without
hide from
brakes.
his face.
I turned pale as I thought my nightmare may have something to do with the incident. I was scared and even went home early. I told my parents about it, but this time they took me to a priest and he said he'd give me something in 3 days. Every single day I had the same nightmare until my priest gave me a blessed cross.
That's what you should do.
And I haven't had any nightmares about
Tell
the
a
thing
priest.
anymore. However,
Good idea.
every night I sleep with the covers over my head. Call me a coward or anything you want, but the thing still hasn't left my mind. Those 3 words haunt me till this day, making me wonder when I will forget or move on from the thing.
Ooh. Okay, last one, guys. Choose
I'm 21 years
scariest doppelganger story
old
animated.
now. This happened to my uncle when I was around 9 years old. My uncle was living in our house and was staying at our vacant guest room up on the 2nd floor. He's my dad's cousin, so he was really close to our family. My uncle was a morning person. He would always get up at around 4 a.m., drink coffee, and run morning errands around the house. He also told us that he could see and feel ghosts because he has a third eye.
Oh my
To
gosh,
give you a
what are
little
these
background on our
animations?
house,
What are
it was
these
the very first house
animations?
that was built on our street. We could sometimes feel something moving around our house, especially at night, but we never really paid attention to it. One morning, my uncle woke up at his usual time, around 4 a.m. He left his room, which was right beside the staircase, saw my older sister, who was 17 years old at that time, going up the stairs with a cup of coffee in her hand. The weird thing was, he said that my sister was looking down and not showing her face the whole time. He greeted her with, "Good morning, and why are you up so early?" He said my sister just kept walking up while looking down and ignoring him. My uncle felt awkward as my sister just walked past him. He ignored it, thinking my sister was in a really bad mood. He thought she probably stayed up late studying or something. My uncle went down to grab a cup of coffee when he saw my mother in the living room, ironing some clothes. My uncle was confused about why my mother was up at 4 a.m. and ironing clothes. He tried to talk to her and asked the same thing he asked my sister. "Why are you up so early?" He noticed that my mother was wearing the same clothes from the night before she went to bed, so he knew it was her. To his surprise, my mother ignored him. My mother never ignored anyone, which is why he found it strange.
Guys, I don't
My mother
understand
was
this.
just looking down as she kept ironing. That's when my uncle knew something was off. He knew something was very wrong here. He rushed back upstairs to his room, locked the door, turned off the lights, and tried to go back to sleep. He tried to forget about it and woke up again a few hours later. It was around 10 a.m. in the morning when he talked to my mother and my sister about what happened.
Where's Marvin?
They said they were asleep the whole night, and they don't recall waking up at 4 a.m. My uncle was so shocked about what he had just experienced. Someone was copying my mother and sister earlier that morning. I was so scared at that time. I became so paranoid that I might feel or see something odd in our house, but I tried not to think about it too much. The night after that situation, my uncle woke up at around 3 a.m. He felt something at the end of his bed, and he saw a woman with long hair sitting there.
Alright, I'll stop.
My uncle froze for a while. He didn't know what to do. He was trembling when he said, "Go away." My uncle hid under his blankets. After a few minutes, which felt like hours, he looked at the same spot where he saw the woman, and she was gone. My uncle slept with the lights on that night. After that experience, he thankfully didn't experience anything like it ever again.
That was good. I like that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, turn the bell, all of that stuff. Yeah, like I said, there'll be lots of Terrifying Tuesdays coming up. And yeah. So, in a bit, guys.